Stop right there, criminal scum!
Thomas here with Much Props, going to give you another how-to video. Today we are making something from Oblivion. Now the game has been remastered and released this week, and of course I had to do some research. So I thought, why not make something from the game as I'm playing through? And my initial thought was making the Amulet of Kings, which is a pivotal part in the storyline of the game Oblivion. And I looked at it and I really want to do it justice, but there's a lot of intricate little details that I want to get just right. So I shifted my attention to other various things, and there are tons and tons of objects within the game that I would love to make. And I've made several in the past from the Elder Scrolls series. So I was looking at what's a common thread that you see all throughout the game, and if you've played it, you know that the Gray Fox is like the head of the Thieves Guild. He wears this cool mask, ... Yeah, I'm gonna make the cowl. So today we are making the Gray Cowl of Nocturnal from Oblivion, technically the remastered version, out of EVA foam. Let's get to building. Free template down in the description. Download it, build it yourself. Do it. In case you were curious, I don't get to play video games very often. With a full-time job teaching and a night job making YouTube videos, most of my waking hours are spoken for. Seeing them remaster Oblivion got me super excited because it was a game that I loved playing almost 20 years ago and something that I know that I'll enjoy. So going in, I wanted to make something iconic from the game that others would connect with, and for me, I love playing the stealth characters in Elder Scrolls series. The cowl is owned by the leader of the Thieves Guild, and usually one of the first factions that I try and complete. So I drew up a pattern for this cowl and traced it onto some 6mm EVA foam. Once all the parts are traced out, I cut them out using a sharp hobby knife. There are no angle cuts in this build, and it's technically made of only 5 pieces, so I would definitely consider this a beginner build. What a lot of people don't realize about most of my videos, you are seeing the first attempt at me making this, including me figuring out what the pattern is as I go. I can't see it now, but eventually I'll realize that I need to make some adjustments to the pattern. I'm not going to redo this entire build, but I will be making some adjustments so that if you decide to make it yourself, it'd be more accurate. The main area mine strays from is the gap in the eyes and the opening of the mouth area. Easy fixes that will make it better to wear in the end for anyone trying to level up their foam crafting skills. To curve some of the parts into something closer to their final shape, I'm going to heat form the foam with a heat gun, pushing it over a round object. In my case, I typically use the glass dome for my back porch light. Heat forming your foam will put less strain on the seams and require less work later down the project. A lot of people ask when I am doing this particular step if they can use a hair dryer instead of a heat gun, and my answer is probably not. Typically, hair dryers only get up to about 140 degrees Fahrenheit or 60 degrees Celsius. Most EVA foams need to get up to around 300 to 500 degrees Fahrenheit or 148 to 260 degrees Celsius before they can start shaping. Some thicker or denser foams may even need a higher temperature depending on the type. Assembly is pretty straightforward. Apply contact cement to the edges, give it a few minutes to set up, and then tack the parts together. I like to close the darts or large V cuts first, and then using my registration marks or those small U shapes on the edges to line up the corresponding parts. My templates are always free and linked in the description below the video they go with. You can also find them on my website at muchpropstudios.com. For this pattern, keep in mind that I'm building this to fit my ginormous head, which is 24 inches around at its widest point, my forehead. So if your head is smaller, you may want to watch the video of mine on how to scale parts down. I'll link that down in the description below the video for those of you wanting to make this yourself and want it to fit. Once both sides are glued up, I'm ready to glue the two halves together to make the mask. You don't have to worry too much about the center seam lines on this one, as a majority of it will be covered up with an overlay strip in the middle. Work slowly, lining the registration marks up, and push firmly together to get a good connection in the middle. because I am making this up as I go, I didn't take into account the overlay of the mask that starts at the mouth and loops around to the back of the head. This is the area I've indicated with a green line on my template. You could do what I am doing and cut a small triangle wedge strip of foam in this area, or you could cut out that green line and just glue the top about 1/4 of an inch overlapping the bottom piece. Either way, you're going to get that stacked effect that we're looking for. I just glued a wedge of foam and called it a day. I knew that the stitching would cover up a good chunk of this and distract from any areas that I didn't get a good enough transition in. I also added a 15mm EVA dowel to the bottom perimeter of the cowl. The middle overlay of this build has some daedric text on them that says "Shadow Hide You." I went ahead and drew them out as a reference for anyone who wants to make it and not have to squint at a small screen grab for their spacing or style. I don't think these letters are recessed into the mask in the game, so I'm just going to paint them on at the end. For the overlay, I put it on, mark it with a Sharpie where it's going to lay, and then glue it up. This saves on glue and prevents me from making it crooked. Two coats of Plasti Dip. The name of the cowl would suggest that I could paint it gray and call it a day, but closer examination of this item, you'll see that there's a couple of different shades of gray and a few splotches of blue and purple and even some light brown areas. I roughly put down a dark gray, not trying to fully cover it, as I know that there's going to be several passes with lighter tints as I go. To add a little texture to my surface, I'm going to sponge on some splotches of lighter gray and a couple of spots with a little purple or blue mixed into the variation so I can make it closer to the reference image. You could totally paint on some fake stitches or even add thin strips of foam around these parts to mimic stitches, but I decided to forego the easy and hand stitch the mask around all of the edges. To me, it just sells a whole lot more and makes it look more realistic. While foam is not hard to pull a stitch through a single layer of 6mm foam, it does get taxing at 12 to 15mm in those stacked areas. I could use an awl to punch holes, and eventually I do, but for some reason I forget until I'm about halfway through and my hands are sore. You leather crafters and seamstresses out there must have hands of steel. My off-white wax thread wasn't the right color, so I painted it a light gray and began pushing it through the middle overlay, the overlap wedge on the sides, and then around the half dowel on the bottom perimeter. The stitching may have taken me longer than the construction and the painting combined. My last step is to paint on the daedric text. I am choosing to go the paint pen route and just do it by hand. I'm picking the darkest blue that I have, and I'm working from the last letter at the middle of my nose up to the top of the helmet for the first. And with that, the gray cowl of Nocturnal is now mine, and I can trick people into believing that they can't tell who I am by covering up just the top of my head. You can still see my mouth and my jaw and my eyes, and magically no one knows who I am. Video game logic doesn't have to make sense, but it does make for some fun ideas. I hope you enjoyed this build, and if you do, leave me some more Oblivion build suggestions in the comments below. I feel like the Amulet of Kings has to be done at some point in the near future. And we are finished. Here is the end result. Overall, I think it turned out pretty good. There are some parts that I'm probably going to tweak on the template just to kind of bring it that closer to what screen looks like. In particular, I feel like these little flaps on the side should be brought in to frame the face a little bit better. So I'm just going to extend those out on the template. You don't have to worry about that. It's adjusted. But yeah. Maybe you will try and make one of these yourselves and impress your friends with your ability to hide amongst regular people and them not notice that you're a completely different person when you take the mask off. Yeah. Maybe you'll get some.
Yay!
And inevitably, they're going to ask you, how'd you make that? Give them one of these. Tell them. Much props. Is it time to go commit some crimes? No one will ever know. Peace out. If you enjoy what I do here on YouTube and you want to see more builds like this one, please consider joining these awesome people listed here with me over on my Patreon to build a bigger, better, more creative community together.